Disclaimer: this content is for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. I always thought I knew my husband. We had been married for 5 years, built a life together, and shared everything. At least, that's what I believed. But one night, everything changed. One moment, we were just another happy couple, going about our usual routine. And the next, I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about the man I had promised to spend my life with. It all started on an ordinary evening. I was in the kitchen, making his favorite dinner, when I heard him laughing in the living room. But it wasn't his usual laugh. It was different, deeper, almost like someone else entirely. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was just imagining things. But then, as I walked into the room, I saw something that made my stomach drop. He was holding his phone, staring at the screen with an expression I had never seen before, one of pure panic. The moment he noticed me, he locked the phone and forced a smile. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just work stuff." But I knew my husband, and I knew when he was lying. From that night on, little things started to feel off. His routines changed. He started receiving calls late at night and stepping out of the room to answer them. When I asked, he shrugged it off, saying it was just business. But why did he suddenly have so much business after hours? Then, one night, I woke up and realized he wasn't in bed. My heart pounded as I got up to look for him. The house was dark, except for a faint glow coming from the study. I tiptoed closer, careful not to make a sound. Through the small gap in the door, I saw him, his back to me, whispering into his phone. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. Who was I really married to? Before I continue, I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment where you questioned someone you love? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to find out what happened next, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Trust me, the truth is wilder than you think. I held my breath, straining to hear every word. My husband's voice was hushed, urgent, almost desperate. "No, I told you, not yet," he said. "She doesn't know anything." She? My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he would hear it. Was he talking about me? I pressed my hand against my mouth, afraid even my breathing would give me away. There was a long pause, then a deep sigh. "I just need more time. I can handle this." I felt a chill run through me. Handle what? My mind raced, piecing together every strange moment from the past few weeks. The late-night calls, the distant looks, the way he flinched whenever his phone buzzed. Had I been ignoring the signs all along? Suddenly, he ended the call and turned slightly. I jumped back, barely managing to hide behind the doorframe before he could see me. My hands trembled as I backed away, heart hammering in my chest. I needed answers, but I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. The next day, I watched him carefully, searching for any hint of the man I had fallen in love with. He smiled at me over breakfast, kissed my forehead before leaving for work, and even sent me a text in the afternoon saying, "Miss you, can't wait to see you tonight." For a moment, I almost convinced myself I was overthinking. Maybe it was just work stress. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. But then I remembered the way his voice had sounded on that call, the urgency, the secrecy. That night, after he fell asleep, I reached for his phone. My fingers hesitated above the screen. We had always trusted each other. I had never felt the need to invade his privacy before. But now, I had to know the truth. I took a deep breath and unlocked it. Messages, a name I didn't recognize, a conversation that had been recently deleted, except for one message that sent a shiver down my spine. "We're running out of time. She can't find out." I felt the room spin. Who was this person? And what was he hiding from me? I need to know before it's too late. What do you think I should do? Confront him or dig deeper? Comment below and tell me what you would do in my place. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust me, this story is far from over. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. We're running out of time. She can't find out. The words burned into my mind. My husband, the man I trusted, was hiding something. But what? And from who? I needed answers, but I couldn't think straight. My pulse was racing, my breath uneven. If I confronted him now, he would have time to come up with a lie. But if I waited, if I played it smart, maybe I could uncover the truth myself. I quickly put his phone back where I found it and forced myself to act normal. Lying next to him in bed, I could hear his steady breathing, as if nothing in the world was wrong. But I knew better now. The next morning, I decided to watch him closely. Every movement, every glance at his phone, every excuse he made to step away. At lunch, he seemed distracted, checking his messages constantly. "Everything okay?" I asked, forcing a smile. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just work stuff." That same excuse. I leaned in and placed my hand over his. "You've been acting different lately. Is there something you're not telling me?" For a split second, I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt? Fear? But then, just as quickly, he laughed and squeezed my hand. "Of course not, babe. You're imagining things." But I wasn't. That evening, when he left the house for a so-called urgent meeting, I followed him. My heart pounded as I stayed a safe distance behind, hoping he wouldn't notice. He drove across town, stopping in front of a small cafe. But he wasn't alone. A woman was waiting for him. She stood as he approached, her expression serious. They exchanged a few words before sitting down. My stomach twisted as I watched them talk, too intensely, too familiar. Was this an affair or something worse? Then something happened that made my blood run cold. He slid a small envelope across the table to her. She opened it, glanced inside, and nodded. What was in that envelope? Money? Documents? A secret he never wanted me to know. I need to know now, but I can't do this alone. What do you think? Should I confront him at the cafe or keep watching to see what happens next? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Because trust me, this is only the beginning. My hands tightened around the steering wheel as I sat parked across the street, watching my husband and the mysterious woman. The envelope was still on the table between them, untouched for a few moments before she slowly picked it up and slipped it into her purse. What was in it? Money? A letter? Something worse? My pulse pounded in my ears as I leaned forward, trying to read their expressions. My husband looked tense, his fingers tapping against the table. The woman, on the other hand, seemed calm, almost too calm. She nodded at something he said, then glanced around as if making sure they weren't being watched. They both stood up. Panic rushed through me. Were they leaving? I shrank lower in my seat, hoping he wouldn't see me. He walked her to the parking lot, and for a split second, I thought they were about to part ways. But then, she reached out and placed a hand on his arm. He didn't pull away. Something about the way she looked at him, like she knew him, like she had some kind of hold over him, made my stomach twist. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, she said something that made my breath catch. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw my husband's reaction. His whole body stiffened, his jaw clenched, and then he nodded. What did she say? What was she making him agree to? I needed to get closer. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and quickly took a picture of the woman. If I didn't find answers tonight, I'd find them later. I watched as my husband got into his car, the woman heading in the opposite direction. For a second, I thought about following her instead, but my gut told me to go home, to act normal, to wait for my husband to come back and pretend I had no idea where he had been. But I wouldn't be waiting cluelessly. That night, I searched for the woman online, running her photo through every search I could think of. It took hours, but then, finally, I found something. An old article, a missing persons case, and my husband's name was mentioned in it. I stared at the screen, my entire body frozen. What had he done? And more importantly, was I in danger? Tell me in the comments, what would you do next? Should I confront him now or gather more evidence? Let me know and make sure to like and subscribe because the truth is about to change everything. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the article, rereading my husband's name over and over. It was buried deep in the text, just a single mention, but it was there, connected to a woman who had disappeared years ago. I felt sick. Who was she? And why had my husband's name been linked to her case? My mind raced through 100 different possibilities, each one worse than the last. Had he known her personally? Had he been investigated? Was he responsible? I needed to breathe, to think clearly. But how could I, knowing that the man sleeping just feet away from me might not be the person I thought he was? I glanced toward the bedroom, listening to the quiet rise and fall of his breathing. He looked peaceful, like nothing was wrong, like he wasn't hiding a secret that could destroy everything. I turned back to my screen, desperate for more answers. Clicking on a related link, I found an old photo of the missing woman. My stomach dropped. She looked familiar, not because I knew her personally, but because I had seen her earlier tonight at the cafe. The same woman who had met my husband, the one he had handed the envelope to. I clapped a hand over my mouth, forcing myself not to make a sound. This wasn't just some random business meeting. This wasn't some harmless misunderstanding. She wasn't missing. She was alive, and my husband knew it. My thoughts spiraled. Why had she disappeared? Why had she resurfaced now? And what did my husband have to do with it? The way he had reacted to her, the way he had looked over his shoulder, as if afraid of being seen. This wasn't just an old friend reconnecting. This was something else. I had two choices. I could wake him up right now and demand the truth, or I could stay quiet, pretend I knew nothing, and keep digging until I uncovered everything. My gut told me to wait. But how much longer could I live under the same roof as a man who might not be who he says he is? What do you think? Should I confront him or keep playing along? Comment below and tell me what you would do. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust me, this is far from over. The next morning, I woke up before my husband. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The missing woman, the woman from the cafe, was alive, and somehow my husband was involved. I couldn't pretend anymore. I needed answers. When he finally stirred, I forced myself to sound normal. "Did you sleep well?" He mumbled something, rubbing his face. I watched him closely, searching for any trace of guilt. But he acted like everything was fine, like he wasn't keeping a dark secret. I couldn't take it. "You were out late last night," I said carefully, keeping my voice casual. "Where did you go?" He tensed, just for a second. "Work," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Just meetings." I sat up. "At a cafe?" His head snapped toward me. I saw it then, the flicker of panic, the slight hesitation. I pressed on. "I saw you." His face paled. "You... what?" "I followed you," I admitted. "I saw you with her. The woman from the cafe. The woman in this article." I grabbed my phone and held up the screen, showing him the missing persons case. For a moment, he didn't say a word. Then, to my shock, he let out a long breath and sank onto the bed. "It's not what you think," he said quietly. I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Then what is it?" He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "She's my sister." I blinked. "What?" My half-sister, he corrected. I found out about her years ago, but by the time I tried to track her down, she was gone. He exhaled shakily. She ran away from someone dangerous. She faked her disappearance to escape, and I helped her stay hidden. I stared at him, trying to process everything. Why didn't you tell me? Because she's still in danger, he said. And now, by following me, so are you. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face darkening. Then he stood, grabbing my hand. Pack a bag, now. Panic shot through me. Why? His eyes met mine, deadly serious. Because they know, and they're coming. Who were they, and what had I just gotten myself into? Tell me in the comments, what would you do? Stay and fight or run? Like, subscribe and stick around. Because this isn't over, not even close. I didn't have time to think. My husband's grip on my wrist was firm, his eyes darting toward the window as if expecting someone to burst in at any second. The weight of everything crashed down on me. His secret, his sister, the danger I had unknowingly stepped into. Who are they? I whispered, my voice barely holding steady. He grabbed a duffel bag and tossed in clothes, moving quickly. The people she ran from. They've been looking for her for years, and now that I've made contact again, they must have found out. He turned to me, his expression serious. We have to go, now. A million thoughts ran through my head, but I knew one thing. I wasn't safe here anymore. My normal life, my simple marriage, all of it had been built on something I never saw coming. We drove through the night, leaving our home behind, uncertainty hanging between us. At a dimly lit motel on the outskirts of town, we finally stopped. I sat on the bed, trying to process everything. So what now? I asked. He ran a hand through his hair. I get my sister out of here. She was trying to disappear for a reason, and I won't let them find her again. And me? My voice was quiet. He met my eyes, guilt flashing across his face. I wanted to protect you from this, but now, you have to decide. The truth was, I didn't know what to do. Could I walk away from the man I loved, knowing what I now knew? Or was I willing to become part of this dangerous, hidden world? Morning light crept through the curtains, casting shadows across his face. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't the same woman I was yesterday. I had uncovered the truth, and I could never go back to the life I had before. I took a deep breath. I'm not leaving you,